was, to mankind. All the names of the prophets were there: Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and including this last prophet, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and peace be upon all the prophets. He came with essentially the same message. Now, when people look at Muslims today, they're not looking at the message, they're looking at the people. And once I said, and I think I borrowed it from somebody, that if I'd have seen, if I'd have discovered, if I hadn't discovered Islam before Muslims, I may not be a Muslim. But of course it was God's will that I'm a Muslim. But therefore, it means don't look at the people, look at the truth. Then you'll find out who's following it.
Well, let me get an email to you that came in from Canada, if I may hear, Yusuf. And it came from Rashid Chowdhury, who says, now that the Europeans have seen that people in the Middle East desire the same things that they do, namely democracy, human rights and dignity, do you think the level of Islamophobia in Europe will fall?
I think some people are gaining a little bit of what you might call political credibility and just speaking out against multiculturalism, because in this pretty bad, dire economic time, then it's a kind of political credence to say such things. But it doesn't really help, and if you really imagine a world without multiculturalism, that looks more like fascism to me, And the whole point here, if you look at it from a human point, we weren't all born on different planets, This is our planet. This is every human being's planet. And if you look at it from the biblical and Quranic point of view, we're all from the same family. So, it's really a matter of, well, politicians aren't, they always tend to be driving up their kind of credibility through these kind of campaigns. And I don't think it's very healthy, because it could be dangerous, especially when a lot of people are, out of work, and you've got immigrants and that facing a lot of discrimination.
Now, it's interesting, you talked about when you read the Quran as in 1976 and found that message of unity. A viewer wrote in, and actually, of course, you were a target a lot of the time after you converted to Islam, and the comments about Salman Rushdie, and you were saying that he didn't really, he deserved what might come to him. A viewer wrote in from the United Kingdom on this and touched on something else about the unity message. It says, John Kendall in the UK wrote in saying, although I have been a great admirer of Yusuf, I have found his statements on Salman Rushdie somewhat disturbing. Now, as the recent uprisings reject religion as a solution, does he acknowledge that religion as an organizer and unifier is now a spent force?
Yeah, I think that's the point. And again, I remind you that listening to what people say and what headlines may say may differ greatly from what the truth is. And and I never actually, in that circumstance, if you look at the whole situation, I never actually supported that particular fatwa. I was simply saying that in a way that God's rules for living together are still valid. And if you look at the Ten Commandments, and if it doesn't take a very clever person or rocket science, to understand that if we all started practicing the Ten Commandments, what kind of a world this would be. So I think it's an amazing thing that people, unfortunately, it's headlines, headline news. People are they're heat-seeking journalists, will always find something to try and blow up. That was a distortion. But the idea of living in peace, I really can't envisage a peaceful world where some people are allowed to just simply revile and make fun of other people's beliefs. I think that there are certain things that we've got to respect, and that in a way is what Islam teaches. Unfortunately, some Muslims have got to learn that too.
Now, of course, I know you said, the message was taken out of context, or what you said about Salman Rushdie was taken out of context. Does it frustrate you that it's so hard to shed negative image once it's been in the media? For example, it was only just last year when you were invited to sing at the Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert rally for, was it a rally to restore sanity and/or fear? In Washington, D.C. Again, that seemed to raise controversy. It must be very frustrating to have to always answer this.
It is, but the great thing was, Riz, is when I started that song, I mean, the buzz that I felt coming from the crowd of 250,000 people, it was amazing. They didn't want me to stop, so Ozzy Osbourne, of course, he kind of broke up my song. People were pretty angry at that, actually, but the feeling I got from the moment, it was so beautiful, and that's really a message that I continue to send out. I hope people will hear it.
Now, of course, when I spoke with you in April of 2007, you had just released your first album in 28 years, nearly 3 decades, and Other Cup. And I wonder how smooth it was, the transition getting back into the world of music. Because I know at the time, a lot of people were saying, well, wait a minute, why are you recording when you said that, Islam doesn't promote the idea of music? And again, you addressed this in that last conversation. How easy was it to get back into the music industry?
It was kind of easy, we've got people lining up to give me checks to go on tour and all sorts of things, there's lots of opportunities. But the thing is, I still believe in integrity, and I believe that what I'm doing, like for instance, this song, My People, there's no better way to use music than for something meaningful and for a cause, for something which is an ideal, a human ideal. And we've got lots of those that have gone missing somehow, and we've got to get back to that place. And I think when I wrote songs, when I wrote songs like Where Do the Children Play, that was an ecological song, it was talking about let's look after this earth. When I wrote songs about Peace Train, that was again a call to let's get together, let's stop this fighting, these imposed wars, we don't want them. So I was a flower child, and in a way I've never stopped being a flower child, and I believe that Islam maybe blossom a little bit more.
Well, here's another email that came in. Janet Howard in Egypt wrote in with this, saying, there seems to be a wave of songs from our new generations that are finally having their voices heard. How do you feel about music in the Muslim world today?
I think the Muslim world is adjusting to the new age, of the reality of the internet and the democratic surge which we're feeling right now, which we're seeing right now, is an amazing thing, and it's a beautiful wind of change which is coming, forcing governments to start to listen and to hear the people, and that's brilliant. And music is just an incredible way and a beautiful way which can harmonize people's hearts and minds, and send out a message. And it is harmless, after all, and I think that's a lovely thing to do, and a lovely thing to be involved in. It's some way in which we can all contribute to this thing.
Now, of course, you wrote My People for the people of Egypt and the Arab world, and of course that just continues that unrest. And I know that you'd also started a charity some time back called Small Kindness, which focuses on orphans. Do you see that charity playing any kind of role in this sort of post-turbulent environment in the Middle East?
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to be where we can help. The problem here, of course, is an immensely political one as well. So it's very difficult to get involved until things settle down in certain areas. But, like for instance, in Egypt, there's a whole new opportunity for the country to rebuild itself, to re-identify itself with its aim and with its people, with its history. And I think that's a wonderful thing. So we're going to try and be involved with Small Kindness. And we also have another very interesting project actually in London. We're establishing a centre called the Maqam Centre, which is essentially a centre to build bridges and to enable people to see a broader view of Islam based on the Prophet Abraham. Of course, a lot of people don't know that there wouldn't be Mecca if Abraham didn't go there and leave his family in that valley.